Welcome to COSAF and thank you for joining us. My name is Ketki Parekh and I'm the founder of the Chicago South Asian Film Festival, which is one of the 7 festivals that have come together to create COSAF. The festival in COSAF include Tasveer South Asian Film Festival, Chicago South Asian Film Festival, DC South Asian Film Festival, Mosaic International South Asian Film Festival, Nepal America International Film Festival, South Asian Film Festival Montreal, Vancouver International South Asian Film Festival. We will be taking audience questions during the Q&A, so please send your questions to our panelist at www.slido.com using the event code 97914. The link is also in the description of the video below, so make sure to send us your questions. It's my honor to now introduce our guest moderator, Namrata Joshi. Namrata is an independent journalist with over 25 years of experience in writing on cinema, entertainment, arts, and culture. She is the winner of Indian National Award for Best Film Critic for 2014. She came out of her first book, Real India Cinema of the Beaten Track, which was published last year. A member of the International Federation of the Film Critic based in Munich, she has been a member of the juries at the Toronto International Film Festival, Transylvania International Film Festival, Cluj, Cairo International Film Festival and also Moscow International Film Festival of Kerala, and Aurangabad International Film Festival. She has been on the selection committee for film at the International Film Festival of India, Goa, and on the juries at Geo Mami Mumbai Film Festival, and on the International Documentary and Short Film Festival of Kerala. She won the Charles Wallace Indian Trust Iqbal Sareen Memorial Fellowship in 2014, as part of which she was associated with the Department of Journalism, Media, Culture Studies at Cardiff University to pursue independent research on the subject, the changing themes and concerns of the British South Asia diaspora cinema. She has also been the writer of British Chevening Scholarship to India Journalist in 1999. That's a very impressive bio, Namrata. Welcome to COSEF, and Namrata, over to you.
Sorry, I thought I'd gone on mute. Ketki, that was such a warm welcome, and it's my pleasure entirely to be hosting a conversation on the film, which I personally have felt, greatly about, and followed the entire journey of the film from the Pingyao Film Festival last year around the same time, wasn't it, Pratik? October was the month last year when it premiered at Pingyao to such a great acclaim, and then followed up at Mami and other festivals. Just to introduce the 3 people we have today from the film, we have Pratik, who's the name behind the film. Shubham is the writer, and Naina we have seen on screen as Kumud. Uh, so I think without much ado, because I'm sure there will be audience wanting to ask a lot of questions of you, I'll just set the ball rolling. Uh, Pratik, this is a very real film, and real also in a very absurdist way. Like reality has a way of being farcical also at times. And farce could have elements of reality in it. I was looking back at your career itself, you started off with a documentary, a very, very well known documentary, Very Old Man with Enormous Wings. Then you moved on to a subject like this, which is so close to to the ground, which is so real, that could have a documentary feel to it in many ways, the way you have constructed the film. So something about this, this zone that you inhabit, a documentary zone, if I could say, uh, something a bit more about, or if you could talk a bit more about that.
Yeah, audible?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So I was saying thanks. Thanks so much for the question. The thing is, yeah, like you said, it's a zone. I can't pinpoint what it is, but I like a certain pitch of reality, whether it be non-fiction or fiction. I don't like realistic too much. I prefer real. And, you know, that real can only be, you know, actually reflected if we are designing it. The design element becomes so important to just carve out, because we're dealing with so much reality in a film like this, in terms of the location, in terms of the non-professional actors, in terms of the natural light, the background. There's so many things, but you always want to carve out that reality, go into the reality and come back with your fictional plot. So, like you were saying, like for me personally, somebody like Dario Fo becomes very important in these times, where if we were dealing with factual, hard-hitting, biting reality, but when we are sort of putting our artistic reflection onto it, then what form do we choose? Like in something like An Accidental Death of an Anarchist, Dario Fo does it so brilliantly, takes a real case, real characters, and then pushes the absurdity to a certain level where the madman is judging the rest. That kind of a position, I personally prefer. And especially in a situation in a world like this, what we're living right now, I think it's humor and reality, and the mix of two is something which has become critical, because I think it disarms people. And um, sometimes while watching a simple documentary, it's easy to say, okay, this doesn't happen with us, and there's othering like that. When we do it in the fiction space, somehow it disarms more people. It is more inviting for people to come in and start a dialogue. So I always feel that this film is not. I don't know. It's not coming from a very didactic position of saying, okay, this is right, this is wrong, this is how it should be. But this is more of a proposition for a dialogue, proposition for a conversation. And I think I'm happy that this film is able to do that right now. So yeah, that is.
Sorry, I interrupted you. Please carry on.
No, no, no. I was just finishing on it.
So where the whole idea, it is something, this whole monkey menace, so to speak, has been something that actually, to be very honest, it's rather a human menace which has resulted in monkeys kind of doing what they are doing back in Delhi. An idea which has been around us, a part of many of our reality. I remember telling you, Pratik, about how I myself have experienced the whole cycle of how, in my own neighborhood, we had a langur first employed to kind of shoo away the monkeys, and then the Wildlife Act coming in, and then the humans taking over as the human langur, so to speak. Now the whole idea of it, Shubham, was it your initial kind of idea which led to you and Pratik coming together, or was it something that struck Pratik, and then you guys kind of sat together and developed it? It would be nice to for the audience to know how it all came together.
It was to start with. It was Pratik's idea because Pratik had this newspaper cutting with him. I don't know since when, and it was news about an article about Mahinder, who's also acting in the film, and Mahinder as Monkey Repeller. So Pratik shared this news with me, this newspaper cutting, and we were at the same time we were planning to make a film. Like we were thinking that we should make a feature film, fiction film, and then we came up with this idea. Okay, we should go with this. It looks interesting. It has a lot of layers, lot of threads. Like we can just catch everything and create something of our own.
And how did you go about, you must have spent a lot of time researching, because the kind of spaces you venture into, whether it is an NDMC office or whether it's the police guys, it must have kind of involved a lot of you kind of actually visiting the spaces which you have recreated on screen.
Totally. Like it was all research in central Delhi, from Nirman Bhavan to Rashtrapati Bhavan, and major part of it is roaming with Mahinder in his areas. Like Mahinder gave a lot for this film, like a lot of information and a lot of things which I don't think so we could have think of, me and Prateek, because we were also learning about this job with Mahinder and also writing the script uh, at the same time. So we had an idea what we want to create, but at the same time we needed Mahinder to understand this job and the dynamics of Central Delhi and a contractual labor there. So certain things are very similar, which we thought. Certain things were new to us because this job is very unique. So Pratik, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, like you say, the research became so much important because, like Shubham says, in a lot of ways, it's similar to any contractual job, but it is unique because of the areas it happens in and because of what the job entails. So a lot of time went in me and Shubham, as he says, going around with Minder, trying to understand. And in terms of spaces, actually starting from something like a Katputli colony, which was being broken down when we started off, because a lot of these performance artists, Behrupias, and people who worked with the animals were living there, and they were all then shunted onto a transit camp in Anand Parvat. So that's where we started off. We went there, we met a few people. Then it's because it's also uh, people don't want to open up so easily because these jobs fall into the category of traditional jobs which have been banned because of the Wildlife Act, and people still continue to do it. So there's an element of caginess where people don't want to open up to two unknown middle class people, you know. So that took a lot of time, but as and when people got used to us, they realized what we were trying to do, and so the caginess from the NDMC people also went away, and it became a little more inviting, a little more open.
Earlier, Pratik, we were talking about before this discussion started. I was talking to you about how I've been through several screenings of the film, and the last night that I watched it, I was also thinking of Bong Joon-ho's Paradise, and the way he creates these verticality, of the whole design of the film while dealing with class dynamics. And in your film, I see a very clear division coming in with the railway track and with the train. From where it's like almost moving from a very privileged world, but a world which has its own issues, to another world, having its own dynamic, its own issues, its own problems. So this whole specificity of a design, visual design of the film, which also involves a lot of Delhi places and spaces which don't normally get representation on screen. How did you pull that off? If you could tell us a bit about the visuality and the design of the film.
See, once we had the script or the basic idea, we were very confident about that in terms of the basic inherent plot of the film. We just wanted to make sure we get a visual spectrum in terms of locations and colors and whatever. And like you say, that railway track became like a border for us. we wanted to treat it like a border. Like on one side is a very structured central Delhi vistas, very geometrical, clean, and on the other side of the border is all these bastis or neighborhood which have narrow gullies and a certain kind of household and people milling about and very different kind of tonality to it. Like your central Delhi would be sandstone and those red brick structures, tall imposing colonial structures, whereas this Basti is more of what we call unregulated colonies in Delhi. These are not slums. These are not um, buildings set up. These are all colonies which over the years have sort of organically grown. Sometimes within cities, sometimes on the edges of the city. So for us, it became very important to have that visual spectrum to this story, because we thought that only then will that uh, the story go beyond itself. Otherwise there was this danger of it always getting stuck to the plot, and then it just it I felt that without that kind of visual language, the plot, there would be too much reliance on the plot itself, which could then put too much actors on too much pressure on the actors to carry on that plot and all that. So we were very clear, me, Shubham, and Somo, the cinematographer, that we wanted to have a certain kind of widescapes in the film, which sort of puts our little man against the big system, those wide sprawling shots of the North Block and all that. So you pitch against a character against an impossible, intimidating situation. I think those were the basic ideas that we were working with, and trying to always sort of incorporate the city wherever we went. So, and trying to get a spirit of the city, of Delhi as a city, beyond, old Delhi or a certain kind of things that we've come to see. We wanted to look at Delhi as a city of migrants, and which we generally don't associate Delhi with.
A part of it is also the way you build up the characters, and the actors that you choose and pick, pick and choose for the various roles. Mahinder, you have taken straight off life, and then you have Naina stepping in as Kumud. So this whole interplay of actors, how did that come about? And I would like to know a bit from Naina also about, the whole format of working in a setup like this, which is very non-traditional, right? It may not be the way films are normally made in India. So, and I'm sure it will be of interest to the audience also to know how this whole dynamic of real and real is put together. Pratik,
Yeah,
would you? Yeah, okay. Then I start off. Then then we'll move on to Pratik. Yeah, tell me.
So, like you said, it was not a traditional setup. So it had its own advantages, and not to say disadvantages, but new ways of um, going about the shoot, because I mostly have scenes only with Anjani. Shardul is playing the character of Anjani, and we actually at times did not know whether the camera was rolling or not, and what are we supposed to do next. So we would keep rolling, and especially in the metro scenes, we did not know when it was cut and when it was action. So we would keep repeating the scene. The metro would go in the underground tunnel and then come out again. And but things became easier also because we are all from the same film school, and most of the crew. They're all my seniors from the film school, and Shardul is a batchmate. I've actually studied with him for 3 years in the same class. So it also became easier at many levels. Everyone was speaking the same language on the set. So, but we had a lot of improvisations, and we also rehearsed a lot before we went into the scenes.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a privilege to have like a bunch of actors and your crew which has faith and trust in you, right? You know, when you're telling them to do unconventional things, there's not a shadow of doubt. You know, it has to be done, so it'll be done. So that kind of a protection seldom as directors we get on set. You know, and here were a bunch of people who were willing to do anything like what me and Shubham were sort of visualizing in our head. We had the team who would be willing to put everything to achieve all those things. You know, because we did put everybody in an impossible situation at times. You know, be it shooting on location, be it shooting with the monkeys, be it, you know, just asking Naina and Shardul to start performing on the roads or in the metros or in the train stations. You know, that because again, like it brings me back to trying to get the city in. It became very, very critical for me to shoot in real locations and not shoot them as if we are shooting in a studio controlled space. I wanted to have that organic feel of, you know, unpredictable background actions, unpredictable entries and exits of elements into the frames. And that's why that, like Nana said, that being persisting of, I want the dialogue when the metro comes from below to the above, because you know that is the visual design I was talking about, that you get elements in. And so dialogue is, you're super confident about the scene, but how do we place the dialogue? And me and Shubham used to keep talking about these things of scene to hai, but where do we do this? How should it be done? After a point, Shubham, we weren't discussing scenes per se, but how they were
Yeah.
to be done. You know, that became the main concern for us.
So Shubham, your role was kind of, and from the credits of the film also one sees, was way beyond writing and kind of you know being there on the sets and kind of uh, uh, being with the film as it was kind of gaining a life of its own.
Yeah, I think the good thing with this film is that this film became personal for all of us because it was such a small crew. We had to do a lot of work, and we had all of us have to be present there, like had to be there. And especially me and Pratik have been working since like 10, 15 years together. So in a way, it's also easy to understand each other's work. But at the same time, we are working separately also, though it just gels very nicely. And as we both wrote it, we also discussed it. Like I think it was very natural to both of us to be there, and because I'm also an acting pass out, so I knew that whether someone is going here and there, or okay, control him, or control her, or the extras, what to do, what not to do. So it was just like I can't sum it up like this. It was, I think it was just natural.
Yeah,
So it
and
was like,
like one
yeah,
small
sorry.
thing, like Naina said about most of us being graduates of the same film school. So Shashi, Nutan, the sister and the brother-in-law, the contractor, they're all my classmates. So me, Shubham, them, the sound recordist, we've known each other for a very, very long time. And not just known, but worked with each other and fought with each other and, you know, those kind of things. So it just became very easy. And if there was any confusion, there was no sort of filters to communication. Communication wasn't stopping, that was critical. Otherwise, sometimes communications don't happen properly, and that leads to a lot of problems on a film set.
Pratik, which I'm glad you mentioned, the sister and the brother-in-law, and I was, again also stuck while watching the film again about, little the characters which are, no, maybe not so much in focus are also very individualized. Especially say somebody like the gynecologist, the doctor that we see, so doctor-like in a doctor in a certain kind of medical scenario. So and even the agent, who's working with Anjani, getting the passbook made and kept with himself. All these characters have been very finely observed Again, part of getting a certain kind of Delhi alive, uh, or or is it to serve the larger design of the film? In terms of the main character and how the other characters build around him.
Shubham, you want to say something on that?
Yeah, I think there are two, three things to it. A, the research really helped us for understanding the thekedar, the contractor, or how does government office works in this job. But at the same time, I think a lot of these things come from creating a two-hour film, a fiction piece, where you have a protagonist. You want to tell a story through this protagonist, and for the protagonist to work, you need to get the surroundings work very well with him. Because if the surroundings are not working, then I don't think so. The protagonist will work. Hence, the story will not work. So these were very important for us. So we were very sure कि ऐसा नहीं हो सकता कि अच्छा चल जाएगा, contractor चल जाएगा. It has to be well thought because they are the, what do you call it? I'm sorry for the lack of vocabulary, but catalyst, is it the right word?
Matlab, in the sense, like we discussed a lot that for us, the sister and the brother became the real anchors of the film. The brother-in-law, they were the ones who were holding the universe together. Because a film like this always has this danger of slipping into an odd job category film. It's everything is about just one job. But we wanted to have this universe bubbling around the main thing where, and trying to make every character unique and give them a certain individual trait so that they don't exist to serve the central plot of Anjani. For us, the sister, the brother-in-law, Kumud, contractor, everybody for us, we could have followed anybody and made an hour and a half feature film, if in a parallel universe. But we really think, like Shubham was saying, that these guys had to work for the central story to work. If that wasn't happening, and that's why the plot with the gun or the plot with Nutan or the sister working and her struggling with her being concerned about her pregnancy and things like that. It became so critical for us that half the time we were obsessing more about that, I feel.
Because I think that the element, what you are saying, that on the one hand there is Anjani and the monkey repeller track, but the gun forms such a crucial parallel to it. Something I would like to know a bit more about that, and I also immensely liked how it came together. Towards the end when you find him going to the costume guy and leaving the gun behind there. It's almost like two things coming a full circle. At one particular point. Something about that.
I think Shubham can talk in more detail. What I want to say primarily here is something which is an in principle thing, if I may say so. It's been a long preoccupation of how do you talk about violence in films? Do we do it by illustrating it, and is that helpful? Or do we try and evoke a certain kind of discomfort around a weapon or around an instrument of violence, and what transference does it have onto its characters? It's there's so many things associated with a gun, foremost being a hyper masculine kind of an attitude, because guns seem such a flimsy property in our films. No, people carry it around easily, fire them off easily, with nothing to think about. For us, we wanted to have this thing as a heavy burden, something which was heavy, something which was undesirable, something which shouldn't be around in that universe, and it's put there. And what happens beyond that? And at the end, whatever happened, how do we shun violence? That was something what we were doing. Like Kirti was saying earlier, it was easy for us to fire that gun and kill a monkey, kill one of the characters. Anjani shoots himself. Any number of combinations can work. But how do you throw this thing out of your plot again? is where I think, and that is what I think writers think comes in, of where this gun is being left. A place where the costume has been taken, which is another weapon in the film, and now this weapon, and both of them are left behind in that place where, when we look at it, it seems such a prop shop. Doesn't seem, it sort of punctures the violence of the gun for me, with those colors and the Santa Claus and that uh, casting the real costume person as the proprietor, as the person there. So I think Shubham can speak a little more about that.
No, like as Pratik earlier said, that uh, this idea of violence with gun, this this for us was so important because we wanted to create tension for our protagonist. And as earlier we said that we want to create an atmosphere which is working for the protagonist. So that, and that's because family becomes very important. Family, so that they don't become mannequins around protagonists. They are real people with real struggle. And when the gun struggle happens with the brother-in-law, it transferred to the wife, and through wife, it transferred to her brother, the protagonist. So these chains were very important for us. That how do we link all these things? These struggle is not alone his struggle or her struggle. It's the family struggle, and hence the protagonist will feel these pressures. And also I would like to say that for me, it's never like, it's very similar what Anjani is facing and what Shashi, the brother-in-law, is facing. The problem is similar because with monkey and with the gun, the problem, I always feel that there is chance of violence. With monkey, I don't know where it will go. It's monkey. And same with the gun, it's gun. It can go anywhere. I don't know. And that's why the sister, like a lot of people have asked us that how did you decide that sister should play these scenes like this? And we always said that, just try to put yourself in that situation where you have two people in your house, where one is dealing with the gun, the problem with the gun, and one is dealing with the monkey and who has come from Bihar. And she's continuously telling both of them, you keep, like, you do your work properly, and you please give away this gun. This house can go into like hell, like, please do this. But none of them are capable of understanding these things. And that's why, as I was talking with Pratik the other day, I was telling that a lot of people are asking about the politics of the film, but there are very less people who ask about the politics of the family and politics of people around them. So these were things were very important for us to think before writing the script or while writing the script.
I'll step back a little and kind of get some audience views and questions in. Uh, Arshad is asking, and Arshad, hi, I think this is the Arshad I know from back in Toronto. Arshad is asking, your film is about human savagery and animal humanity. I loved it. Thank you for making it. How is the film being received in South Asia? What's next for you?
First part of the question, thank you so much, Ashad, for the praise. The film's been received very well over the last. We've been showing it around for last year, and hopefully the film will be available soon publicly. But wherever we've shown in India and in China, in Hong Kong, we have a screening in Singapore next week, and Taipei in the first week of November, if I'm not wrong. So the somehow there's a certain connect. A, because of the monkeys, and B, because of the prevailing labor situations and the kind of governments in this area we're dealing with. It's not a unique, in many ways, it's a unique job, but the struggles and how do I say it, the struggle is not new. It's not unique. It's relevant to a lot of countries in Southeast Asia right now, and not just Southeast Asia, even in Europe when we went. It's the kind of the assault on the labor rights and labor force is something we are all dealing with, and the pandemic has sort of exposed the fault lines that we're dealing with and shown it in the forefront. So and monkey as a mythology, it is a It's present in a lot of mythologies. In China, there's a monkey god, monkey king in their mythology. India, obviously. So there's a lot of connect. There's a lot of excitement about the film in terms of the kind of conversations we've had over the past, over this year. So yeah, it's been quite encouraging, I must say. And as for what's next, lots of things. Hopefully, something will work out. Let's see.
What about you, Shubham and Naina? What are you busy with?
Naina?
I am waiting for. I was supposed to do 2 films back in March, but they are indefinitely postponed. So, and I have one of the films is again being shot in Delhi, and in South Delhi, a very opposite film from Evalue. So yeah, we're waiting for the film to start again. I think it's going to take one whole year to restart because they're looking for a particular month and season to shoot in. So that's there, and slowly Bombay is restarting with work and auditions are happening. So yeah, a lot of projects are in pre-production. They're trying to just audition for better projects. Yeah.
I just finished shooting, like I acted in a film, like it was shot in Chhattisgarh and it's in post-production stage. And I just wrote a film for Amazon. So it will be in Amazon around December, I think.
Interestingly, we were talking about giving away the gun, and there's a question from Manoj who says, why did you show giving away gun to costume maker? That is illegal in India. All guns are registered. One has to have a license.
Yes.
Yeah.
See, yeah, it might be illegal and all that. First of all, it just giving away the gun is for us more than legal. It's a psychological thing. And by that time in the film, we are more in the psychological landscape than the actual physical plot line of the film. And it's sort of also a reflection of Anjani's state of mind for us, and like I said, costume shop punctures for us the potential violence that the gun has caused in the film.
Going back to the migrant issue that you were talking about, Prateek, what's also interesting is in this film, despite the kind of situation that the characters are caught in, you still find a lot of a positivity also, if for the lack of a better word. I mean, there is a romance also happening. It's not a very downbeat. Look at the whole migrant problem. I mean, obviously that doesn't mean that it's not there. But it's also quite nice to see this whole romance blooming, with Kumud and Anjani. And the other thing which I wanted to point out to you was when you were talking about the monkey menace and relating it to the larger, there is also this larger religious design. The very fact that you are naming your character Anjani, also Anjani, again linked to Hanuman, and the constant interventions visually that we see. The ITO, Hanuman is also like one big image that one always has of Delhi. So these two aspects, if you could talk a bit about, this whole migrant not being a very deadbeat trope, and the linking of relation, this religion, and what you're talking about constantly, that gods are becoming a pest, which they definitely are. That bit also, Shubham and Prateek, if you could talk a bit about.
I'll talk about the first one first, like the migrant and the bleakness that is generally associated with a working class sort of setup. So, like I said, visually, we were very clear that we didn't want to make a morbid and morose kind of film. It had to, because we wanted to talk about so many things. We wanted to have a certain kind of humor where we weren't laughing at our characters, we were laughing with them and their own struggles. And it sort of, again, like, gets me back to Dario Fo about, you invite people in and then show them the world, what lies inside. So even, like, if I talk very specifically for us, colors became very important. Generally we don't associate color with these kind of characters or stories or plot lines. But I was very adamant that I wanted to have pink and yellow and blue and green, those kind of colors, because for me that is the first thing of othering, where we say, oh, these people struggle. There's a constant othering, constant taking a middle class position at a pedestal and looking down upon your own characters, which we wanted to avoid in the first way. And that's why we wanted to give them a life. And that's why our characters also go on a picnic. They will go on a boat ride, and they will, shop for earrings, and they will just roam around with bubbles and things like that. Because that is life. People all are struggling. We all are struggling with whatever's thrown at us, but we don't forget to live. And that became very important for us. And hence a scene like where the sister is having a problem with the smell, and she wants the house to be clean, and things like that. And again, we not having a character where there's domestic violence, this, that, all the jingbangs that we associate at the top of our head without ever thinking about it. And that is what I think makes our characters generally generic, and we wanted to avoid that. Secondly, about the religious aspect, it starts with that documentary where the lady says gods become pests, because the whole film also talks about a certain kind of irrationality, which can only be associated with religion. Only religion, and these days our governments are asking us not to question. Any person, any society with a scientific temper will always encourage questioning. And here we have a constant kind of push where our governments want to model themselves as spiritual gurus, which are beyond questioning and beyond any kind of inquiries. So that was one thing that we wanted to do. And also, again, monkey being such a religious animal in the country, and so how do you weave in something, when it's like, it's not one decision. So naming Anjani obviously is part of a process where we're looking at gender neutral names, so it be Shashi or Kumud or Anjani, these are all gender neutral names, right? And within that, you're also trying to connect, acha, how do I connect to a religious aspect? How do I connect to a gender aspect? How do I weave in the Republic Day into this? This whole, for me, it's all not just religion. It's nationalism based on religion. And a nationalism which is exclusively based and tested upon your religious affiliations, your religious beliefs. I always keep thinking, what do the atheists do? In a world like this, where are we headed to become a Turkey or an Iran or, I don't know, Saudi Arabia? It bothers
on the roads, and it was the most irrational thing for me. And the first question, how did we think about this film? I guess the newspaper cutting helped us, but it's also the preoccupation, where we are constantly thinking about these things, that why are these gaps are बढ़ते क्यों जा रहे हैं? Increasing. And I guess, fortunately, the hopes also comes from places and organizations which come to Jantar Mantar and places to protest, institutions like FTI and JNU, where you go and you realize, no, there is hope. These people are intelligent, well educated, they know how to plan it, they have a hope, they have a plan. And I guess hence I don't think so it will ever be a film about a tragedy.
Mm-hmm. That's a nice way of looking at it. In these times of cynicism, I think pockets of positivity are very, very important. Audience question again to all of you. one thing which I think everyone has been talking about, how did you capture the monkeys? How much time did you spend observing the profession of a monkey repeller?
Months and months and months. Yeah, that's all we did practically. That's what it, because it's a strange kind of film. So the preparation was also a little strange. It wasn't a traditional way of, okay, we need to do a short breakdown and things like that. But it just, me and Shubham spent months in that area following troops of monkeys, and re- people really kept looking at us as if we were some strange two characters every day landing up there and following monkeys on a certain schedule, trying to crack their schedule and preempt what's going to happen and things like that. And as far as filming them is concerned, again, Somo with his the cinematographer with his background in documentary cinematography and this understanding of, okay, what to do, when to do, what kind of light to shoot it on, it sort of brought in, because see, in principle we were clear we didn't want to have like a National Geographic kind of cutaway of monkeys on the trees and all that, or transpose human emotions into them. you know we wanted to have them for what they were, so we keep guessing of what they're thinking. Are they making fun? Are they mocking us? Are they being dangerous? Are they potentially violent? It's nice to have, as long as they were personalized and shot in context of our characters. I think that's what we were looking at.
Uh, Roshni has asked, can you please talk a little about shooting the scene where the monkey is eating from his hands? Shardu's hands, yeah, Manjani's hands. Did that happen naturally or was it written and planned?
Written and planned. We wanted to have a graph in the film where, from the initial where Shardul is so shit scared of the monkeys to a point where they become friends once he's been kicked out of the job. So it's like they've come on the same level, and it's sort of, it's how we pitch one against the other, right? That there's no personal animosity. It's just the system which has pitched us against each other. And a moment in the script where he's been fired for job, he can't find a new job. It's like they've made friends with each other. So very much scripted and planned.
Anonymous asked about the last scene, the ending sequence. Could you explain a little more about Anjani's transmogrification from human to animal in the last sequence?
Shubham?
Start.
It's again, it's for us. It's always been a psychological part of the psychological landscape. That particular scene, of creating a world where a world is going mad, and in that madness, Anjani is at peace there. With the state of mind that he's gone through, this is the place where he will find peace. A place where he loses his own individuality and becomes the mob, a mob which is chaotic and celebratory. It is scary, but very titillating. It is religious and nationalistic, and there's madness to it. So that kind of a chaotic world we wanted to live in. Okay, this is where we stop, and that is why it is so disturbing, because we do not know what will Anjani do next. And that is the most disturbing aspect for me personally, because if I'd said, okay, this happens to him, then it would have concluded things. Right now, by keeping it at a place where Anjani becomes unpredictable, it is something which is more unnerving for me. And for that was the main reason for getting into this kind of expression of the state of mind rather than explanation of it. Shubham, add
Also,
to that?
also I feel that telling everyone about this scene also, I have a feeling that it spoils the effect of the scene for the viewers, because I can just only say one thing: when we were like writing the scene or we were like shooting these scenes, especially the last scene, we have just one idea in our minds, that okay, it doesn't have to be a solid cone ending. It has to be an open ending, not ambiguity. It's not ambiguity. there's a word in Sanskrit poetry, Vakrokti, and the example of it is अब तुम मेरे घर आ सकते हो क्योंकि जिस कुत्ते से तुम्हें डर लगता था उसे शेर खा गया. So this is an invitation, but you don't know whether to go or not. So for me, it's like this. It's there. You decide.
Like it's an invitation and a threat. How do images have more meaning than one? What kind of, how can we create that? So that was the main, what do I say, struggle or intent, without trying to control meaning.
A question Zafir has asked, what were the greatest challenges of making a film like this? Anything you would have done differently?
No, I would have done exactly the same way. It's painful, especially for the actors and the rest of the crew, but I wouldn't change anything.
Naina, what about you? Was there anything that you, in retrospect, feel Prateek should not have kind of done so far as?
No, no, not at all. I mean, of course, when I shot for the film, when we were shooting for it, and in that small colony where we were shooting most the family scenes, it sort of took Nutan and me also a little bit of time, because I had to leave my privileges and fit in that space. So it took us, I mean, as if a small thing as going to the washroom was something that we were like, where do we go? And, we had to cross so many lanes within that colony and find a washroom. And she was wearing that stomach. And so we had our own set of struggles. And then we were playing these characters who had their separate set of struggles. So for me, definitely it took me a day or two to fit into that entire space also. But and honestly, more learning has happened to me after the people started watching the film and traveling with the crew also. So no, nothing should be changed. Nothing at all.
One question regarding the title of the film. Why did you decide to keep it at that? And I'm also very curious. Does Ibaleu make people curious, or is it something which makes people wonder? I mean, was that the reason why you decided to go for it? And it's completely untranslatable, because I remember Prateek in Pingyao, people were like, what does it mean? What does it mean? even in India, when people first came to know about it, there was this thing that, what does, and tongue twister, because people were pronouncing it in their own way. So was it a deliberate decision to kind of stick to it?
Yeah, in the sense, yes, and precisely because of these reasons, we were told don't do it. They won't be familiar with the title. समझ नहीं आता है कि हिंदी film है. People won't understand it's a Hindi film, and these are not good things when you put the film out. But for us, it sort of symbolizes the spirit of the film, which is a little nonsensical and a little fun, and which is just sensory. It's a sound. It doesn't have meaning. And that constant struggle to transpose meaning onto a sensory element is something which I find very interesting, because yes, people call it whatever they want to call it, and I don't particularly mind that. I actually enjoy it because it's rare to have people, and it's also a little playful thing. Again, it's a disarming title, I feel. Once they watch the film, without the film, obviously, without context, you don't know what to do at it. But it just, again, draws people in. It's a little more playful. People are having fun with it. So I feel it's, and it really, in a sense, that is the spirit of the film, that sound that Mahinder has, and it's such a unique sound. Without that sound, I don't know what this film would be.
George asks, can you please talk about, back to the train. Talk about the symbolism of waiting for the train to pass and how that was used in the transitions.
Shubham?
Uh, Train was clearly, first of all, partition for us. With that world where they go, that Delhi and their house, which is very separate. Like it is two different worlds. And maybe Pratik can talk more about where these scenes come in the film. But also, I just want to add that always when we were shooting these films, and obviously story was in my mind, I always one thought always came to my mind that you know for Anjani and the family, that train, maybe that train is going back to Bihar. You can just sit and go, but you never go. You always cross it and always cross it. You always have this thought that, okay, we can go back, but we don't have any choice. So, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, and it's sort of that area and the way it's shot, it becomes like a no man's land, And especially when Shashi is getting the gun back and with the long sequence of the train passing, it sort of helps in just taking the story on a back foot and just letting it be on a very sensory level again, of listening, of seeing this guy struggle with the thing and having this, the trance like sound of the train going and echoing in the head more than in the story per se. And that sort of just helps. I feel sometimes every film should try and find moments where the story takes a backseat and the experience of it takes over. And I think that space helps us do that. And we see characters crisscrossing, going here, there, it sort of says it's everybody's space, but nobody's space. And like a no man's land, anybody can be killed, anybody can leave, anybody can go. But the inherent character of the space will never change. Individuals will keep changing.
I want to share a small, sorry, I want to share a small memory. When you said train, so I grew up, when I was growing up, I was born in Bihar. It later became Jharkhand. So I have childhood memories where every summer vacation and winter vacation we had to go to Delhi because both my parents are from Delhi. So we used to take the train and go to Delhi, and I vividly remember, and this is something that has impacted me a lot. So when we would go to Delhi, my brother and I, we would sort of dress up differently from all the cousins in Delhi, and we spoke differently. So we were always called. I was always called a Biharan in Delhi, and my family members still call me a Biharan, and that's something that is so stuck in my head that after a point, when I was in eighth or ninth standard, I did not want to take that train and go to Delhi ever. So I started staying back. I said, no, I will study extra because I will study extra, but I will not take that train to Delhi because they sort of, it became like a derogatory term. Ki Biharan, Bihari aa gaye. So yeah, that train got these memories back. Yeah.
That's the thing, Pratik. I mean, capturing these pockets of Delhi, which are otherwise, like I was talking to you earlier, that, one sees a lot of it in the Bombay films, but not so much in Delhi films. Delhi films have been very limited to showing us a certain world about it. Occasionally one gets to watch. I thought it was there in Titli. Another aspect of it is there in your film. Is it also because as a city, like you yourself, Shubham was talking about how maybe in Bombay you find the existence is more cheek by jowl, whereas in a city like Delhi, the divisions are such that you can, uh, you know, prefer, choose not to look at, uh, uh, you know, things which may not be, I mean, those little enclaves are very class coded, right? Is it again something to do with the way the city is, its circularity, the fact that it is sprawling allows things to go out of view? Whereas, see, all of us in Bombay would have been to a slum, but A lot of people in Delhi may not have visited pockets of, these blue collar pockets, so to speak, for the lack of a better word.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. These spaces are not just class coded, but caste coded as well. And that becomes the first kind of segregation method of अच्छा ये लोग यहाँ रहते हैं, and that kind of a thing. Like in Bombay, because of the kind of city it is, something like a New York, where even if you have the money, your house is going to be a small little, you know,
Absolutely.
500 square feet kind of an apartment wherever you stay. So that in Delhi is just off the roofs. The class and the caste is so ingrained that becomes a lens which we cannot undo ever. And going back, having grown up in Delhi as a second generation Bihari migrant in the city, and having some of the experiences that Naina shared, is something it's a very strong memory in my head of how spaces are designated with the kind of people you'll see. North Block, we always thought, is if you see in big Bollywood films, is this big drone shots and lines of cars going in an entourage. We wanted to look at it from a working class gaze. How does this space look from a contractual worker's eyes? Those kind of things. It's just trying to look at the same spaces, but through a different gaze. That's what we were trying to do. I hope we've achieved that to some degree.
I think we're nearing the end of the time now, Pratik and Shubham and Naina. So I'm just going to kind of wrap it up with two comments which have come and then kind of wrap it. One is from Dushyant. Yeah. Dushyant says that as a film with Delhi as a character, he found echoes of घोड़े को अनामिका अक्सर सुन जो घोड़े को जलेबी खिलाने ले जा रहा हूँ. Though yours is much more disciplined. If he had time, we could have dwelt a bit more on what he meant by discipline, but I'm being told that we are running out of time. And there is one a compliment, an anonymous compliment saying, love the richness of the film, its ability to get at relationships nuances. I value how getting and keeping a job in Delhi was shown. No questions, just an applause for the team. I think that's a perfect way to wrap it up. Thanks so much for joining us, Pratik, Shubham, Naina, and this film feels very personal for me also. I've really seen it at various junctures in its life, and I've seen the conversation around it evolve, and I hope it evolves further. And looking forward to the work that comes from you in the future. All the best to the three of you. Bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Namrata.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.